So, back to the technology show.
It is the technology show where we translate geek into regular speak. I'm Brett Levy. I'm your host this week. So it's been a super fun-packed week, and in fact, 3 a.m. this morning, I think it was, when the announcement from Google. We'll talk about that a bit later on. But let's stay with the show and let's get into things with a Z. So this week's product review is one of those ones that you want but may not need. It's a little guilty pleasure in life. These are always the ones that seem to creep into us techies' hands and hearts. So today I'm going to be talking about the Tune Shine. And if you're watching the show, you'll be able to see some of the images. If not, I will talk you through it, so don't worry. So what is a Tune Shine? Well, it's art. The Tune Shine is a hand-assembled wooden frame with LEDs on the front. So it's a 16 by 16 centimeter square, surrounded with this really beautiful wood. And then the front of it are these LEDs. Now, the Tune Shine basically takes the display album artwork from the songs that you're listening to, and it shows them. So as the song changes on your music platform, the artwork changes on the Tune Shine. It's not a speaker. It doesn't play music. It just makes what you're listening to visual. And that's what I was saying earlier at the beginning of the show. This is not a tech product that you are going to be using to maybe solve a problem or do something with. This is one of those things when you're actually sitting down, just listening to music, appreciating music, you can now visually see what's on there. Now, if anyone that uses Apple Music, or Spotify would be the same, you'll know what I'm talking about with the album artwork. And if you're watching the show, you'll see there's a picture on the phone that's an Apple Music picture, and then that same artwork or cover is now appearing on the Tune Shine. It currently works with Spotify, Apple Music, as I just said, Sonos, and Last.fm. I'm not sure if the developer has plans for any of the other music stations as and when they come out. And you do need to use your phone to set it up, which is really easy to do. You literally unpack it, plug it in, download the Android or the Apple app, find the Tune Shine, link it to your network, allocate the music, and that's it. It's there, and as it plays. Now, what's really cool about this is, and I've put the picture up, I've actually positioned mine in the dining room. So you can actually see that in this pic, we've got a serving table, and if you look carefully, you can actually see my Google speaker in the background. And as the music plays, the artwork appears and changes. And as I said to you, this is just a visual toy. It doesn't do anything else except for show pictures. So if you're sitting in the dining room, you got some background music going on, now you actually will be able to see the album artwork. So you don't have to look at your phone. The Tune Shine is also one of those gadgets that you kind of just want, right? It's like art. Now, the difference here is that this is not a high-res 4K digital screen. It would have been quite easy to do that and probably pointless, because you can do that with any of the Google Home or Echo Home smart screens. The developer has purposely gone and made this a pixeled experience, and that gives you that art effect as well. It's probably no different to what you would see if you went into a gallery and looked at an impressionist, when it's all little dots, and probably the further you stand away from the art, the clearer it becomes. This is no different as well. It is pixeled, so the further back that you are, the clearer the image does appear. It does actually make for a little bit of fun as well, and a little bit of trivia, because sometimes the images are so detailed that you don't really know what the album is. So you can actually sit there and go, do you know what song is playing now? But basically, aesthetically pleasing. The wood finish is really nice. It is hand assembled. I have actually spoken, I've had a couple of emails up and down with Tobias, the developer of Tune Shine. He's the one that makes them by hand. So, this is not the next big mass-produced product. For those that appreciate finer things, visual aspects, this would sit really well if you have a shelf. I've often spoken to people, and people I'm thinking of right now would be Alex. if you ever speak to Alex or if you see Alex on any of my shows, you will see that behind him, I actually don't know if it's, no, it is real. I've asked him before. Behind him, you'll see this whole bunch of shelves, and he's got all his toys and things that he's collected. That is the perfect place for a Tune Shine. It would sit there as your music's playing, the images would be playing in the background, just keeps it fresh. More information on their website, it's tuneshine.rocks. It is scrolling on the screen as well if you're watching. So there we go. So that was a very quick overview of things with a Z. It's the type of thing that you have to feel and see and touch and experience to understand it. But yeah, for all the music fans out there, that's definitely something to consider. That will take us to tech news. What have we got in tech news today? Let's just bring up something nice. So Veil to Susan Wojcicki. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Wojcicki. So I think it's Wojcicki. It's Polish, if I'm not mistaken. Susan is the former CEO of YouTube. She passed away at 56 years old after her battle with breast cancer. And I think this is just one of those moments where you have to, speak to the ladies in your life, your mothers, your sisters, your wives, daughters, get yourselves checked. If you check regularly and you detect something, you've got a much better chance of fighting it than, finding out the hard way. I think most of us know people that, have been affected by breast cancer or any other cancer for that matter. I think, keeping yourself checked regularly and healthy is the way to go. So yeah, 56 is young. She was definitely one of the formidable people in tech. So rest in peace, Susan. On to more happier news reportings. So here in Australia, and specifically in Brisbane and Gold Coast, which are the two biggest adopters of electric vehicles in Australia, as it so happens, and I live in the Gold Coast, Uber and Car Empire have partnered to accelerate the second-hand EV market. EVs have been around for a while now, and the question is like, what happens to the second-hand EVs? There's always discussions on batteries and things like that. So they've partnered now for Uber drivers and Uber Eats drivers or Uber Eats delivery people to now be able to get access to affordable pre-loved Nissan Leafs. Now, when the Leaf first came out, which was one of the first EVs, I think them and the Prius, which was a hybrid that also then became EV, it was quite an ugly car, if I'm honest. I mean, it really wasn't nothing to look at. But if you're watching the show, you'll see this is the latest Leaf that's up there. And it looks no different from any of the small compacts that we have now, the Toyotas, the Mazdas, etc. So from an aesthetics point of view, there's nothing wrong with the Nissan Leaf. They have got a legacy of building a really good car and have been doing it for a long time. So I think it's quite an exciting initiative. I don't know what the price points are, but if they're saying that they're making it affordable and accessible, I think the part to point out there and why I probably picked up on the story is that if you are an Uber driver or a delivery person per se, the insurance is very different. And a lot of the car finance companies don't let you finance a car to be used for car sharing or carpooling and things like that. So that's just an announcement as well. If you were thinking of getting into Uber driving or deliveries or things like that, and you were going to finance a car, just bear that in mind. There are some companies that will actually not grant you finance, or you'll be in breach of your insurance or your finance deal if you are using it for Uber. And people go, oh, how will they know? Well, have a crash and have someone sue you. Then they'll know. So yeah, good luck. Well done to Uber and Car Empire for this. And living up here, as I said, on the Gold Coast and with Brisbane, we do see a lot of electric vehicles. So it'll be interesting to see how this initiative rolls out and how that does actually help the growth of the secondhand EV market. It's starting to become a show that if I don't talk about Elon, then it's not normal. In the old days, it was like every show had Apple in it, and I've mentioned Apple Music already, so box ticked. But most of my shows now seem to talk about Elon. But this time, it's not a bad Elon. This is a good Elon. So Elon's been warned by the EU not to incite violence by sharing content on Twitter or X. And that content that's been banned or has been deemed illegal to share in the EU. Now, this stems from the recent violence in London specifically and in the UK. There's been a lot of violence going on. This is not a show about violence or politics. I'll leave it at that. You can Google it yourself. But most of the networks have been banned from sharing the content. Now, Twitter or X, under Elon, is always had that FU type attitude and doesn't really do what it's told, and neither does he. So he's been sharing it. So anyone around the world that's been wanting to follow what's going on in the UK and pretty much on any other things, I suppose, X is the place to go. I just wish we could call it Twitter still. I really don't like calling it X. Anyway, in fact, I'm wearing a Twitter shirt today. So I've got my Twitter shirt on as well in support of Twitter, not X. But the thing is that EU. So Elon received a formal letter from the UK, and his response was to put a meme from the movie Tropic of Thunder. I can't repeat what that is because I published this show as safe for all ages. But if you've watched the Tropic of Thunder, there's a scene with, I think it's Tom Cruise, and he says something quite colorful. Yeah, that was basically his response to the letter. Now, what will be interesting is to see what the EU's response is when Elon sits down to interview Donald Trump and the kind of discussion that that's going to take. And will that be allowed to be shared across the EU? The only thing, though, that I think is probably something that would need to be considered, especially if an investor, is what's going to happen to the X stock price, because the EU are within their rights to take legal action against him. They are within their rights to fine X. I think it's 6% of revenue. I know he doesn't care, but if you're making money off shares, you might want to be cautious of that. I suppose we'll see how the stock market goes. But that being said, from a point of or source of truth, from a source of openness, that's always been the gravitas for Twitter, is that it is that place that you go to. Don't believe everything you read. That would just be naive. But if you are looking for pretty much both sides of any argument, Twitter is definitely, X is a good place to go. Right, so I made mention of it at the beginning of the show. Hey, Aria, I got a thumbs up from Aria. In fact, I don't know if I can even share these things anymore on the screens. Let's see if I do that. Put his name up there. We got to get you back on the show, but it's been way too long. No, I can't. So basically, I mentioned at the start of the show, 3 a.m. this morning, there were some incredible announcements from the Made by Google event. I often say that if you're into technology, any of the events, the Apple event, the Samsung event, Made by Google, and so on, they're definitely worth watching. One, you get to see like really cool stuff. They explain the roadmaps and so on. Well, Made by Google 2024 did not disappoint. Now, it really was just an awesome day to be a techie. I think that sums it up. But this is definitely going to be a precursor to what are going to be some awesome things with the Z reviews. I'm saying that smiling. For anyone that's watching the show, I've probably got like a little Cheshire cat smile going while I'm saying this. If you're listening, I have a Cheshire cat smile going. I cannot wait to get my little grubby paws on some of these cool devices. So we only know certain things. We know what the lineup is. I can tell you now, it is not disappointing. So I will do things with the Z reviews as and when these devices come out. But just to whet your appetite, if you are looking at new hardware and specifically Android, well, even not specifically Android, if maybe you fed up with Apple and you were considering Android for the first time, you would be doing yourself an incredible disservice to not consider the new Pixel 9 series. Now, there will be 4 phones this year. Last year, there were 3 phones. Well, there were 4 phones eventually by the end of the year because the A came out as well. We had the 8 Pro, we had the 8, just the 8 Pixel 8, we had the 8 Fold, and we had the 8A. No, that's 4 folds, 4 phones. So there are 4 phones again that have been announced. There is the Pixel 9, the Pixel 9 Pro, the Pixel 9 Pro XL, and it is coming to Australia. This is confirmed because we didn't get the first version, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. There's the Cheshire smile again because I'm being dying to play with the the Pixel Fold, which was last year's version. It never made it here, so I didn't get to play, but the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is coming to Australia. Now, these are all powered by Google's new Tensor 4 silicone, and they are packed with features. There were certain announcements made. Go and watch the Made by Google, or if you don't, wait for my show. I'll unpack some of these features as and when the devices come. That's the thing that floats my boat at the end of the day. I don't just like regurgitating form factors and specs and things like that. I like to play with the hardware. What I can say, when this is really important, is that new to the lineup is the XL. So the Pixel 9 XL will be 6.8 inches. That's compared to the current 6.3 inches of the 8 Pro, and obviously now the 9 Pro that's coming out. But, and this is a big but, it will still have the same hardware and camera specs. So the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL have got a 0.5 inch difference. And remember, you measure from bottom left to top right. So it's a diagonal measurement. So the XL will be bigger than the standard phone. And if if you consume content, play games like I do on your phone, obviously the more screen you can get, the better. However, some people don't want bigger form factors because maybe they have small hands. Maybe it doesn't fit in the pocket. I don't know. I say maybe because I haven't played with it yet. But, and this is the but that I was saying to you, in my opinion, this is where Apple got it wrong last year with the announcement of the 15 series. So I know I'm talking about Google, but it's really important to point this out because this is kudos to Google. When Apple launched the 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, which is their bigger phone last year, they put more camera power into the Pro Max. Now, that's the first time they've ever spec'd the Max more than they've spec'd just the Pro. And the definition of the Pro is when you buy a Pro device, you're buying the best and you're using it for professional use. There is nothing worse than buying a device knowing, like if you bought the 15 Pro, knowing that you weren't getting the best that Apple had actually made on that phone. And that was because of size. I don't like the big size factor personally. Playing games, definitely, but if from a day-to-day phone, I'm quite happy with a smaller form factor that fits neatly in the pocket. So well done to Google. Straight away, that was just a big win. So when you buy, or if you buy the Pro XL versus the 9 Pro, you are purely buying a bigger screen. You are not buying a better hardware spec. There was also more announced. A new Pixel Watch 3 is coming out. Now, what they did differently, besides obviously processors and that, which is what you would expect, it's still round, but they announced 2 sizes. So there's now going to be a 45 millimeter as well. Now, that's important because a lot of the feedback on Pixel Watch 2 and I assume Pixel Watch 1 is that it was too small. They found that the size was limiting, and that might have been a reason why the uptake may or may not have been there. I don't know. I don't know what the specs and the numbers of sales were, and I don't care. But they have made a bigger watch. Again, listening to what people want, delivering what people want. And then the last thing is the Pixel Buds Pro 2. So these are their new Pixel Buds, the earbuds. If you're looking at the screen, there's pictures of all of them. The one thing that really is important, that really stands out, is that the Google camera bar, as it was called, which we saw on 6, 7, and 8, has now been changed into this like island. It doesn't go edge to edge. It floats with on the phone. They've carried the same design across onto the Pro Fold. There's a picture of the watch. The tablet's in there for some reason. I think that was just more about what the capabilities of the tablet can and can't do, as opposed to anything new on the tablet. I don't really recall hearing anything new on the tablet, maybe just software. And there was some software discussions about it, so maybe it's time to revisit that. But the Pro Buds 2, Pixel Buds Pro 2 is I think the correct name for it, are going to be AR centric. In fact, that was the theme for Made by Google, was AR. If you don't know, Google has Gemini. In my opinion and my personal preference is Gemini over ChatGPT. And all of their devices are built with Gemini and Gemini's capabilities in mind. There's some super, super cool features coming out with AR. Stay tuned. So yeah, that is a really cool way, I think, to end off tech news. Check it out. I'm sure if you just put hashtag Pixel9 into search, you're going to find all kinds of things. It was a really big day today for them. Well, late night for them and early morning for us down the side of the world. So that's the end of tech news. Are you game? So I'm still watching the games over in Saudi Arabia. I think it's until the 20th or 24th. But I am going to have a little punt. I think I might have mentioned the show before. It is official. It's up on the website. I will be running the first esports event at the Gold Coast International, which is the biggest youth futsal tournament in the Southern Hemisphere. Going into its 15th year next year, we will now be fielding digital athletes as well, playing soccer-centric games, Rocket League, FC. There's a surprise in there as well. Hopefully, we might even include NBA 2K, so basketball coming into the mix as well. Very excited about this initiative. We haven't really had any nice major esport player events on the Gold Coast, so it's not so much about the spectator, but more about the player event. So yeah, stay tuned. I will share things as it grows and as it progresses. Just a shout out to everyone listening to the show there. If you want to get involved in any way, shape, or form, if you want to find out more about the teams, I will put the website up in the post notes as well in the show. But also just reach out to me. I mean, it's not hard to find me. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you're watching the show, you already know. As always, with every event, we're looking for sponsors. There's going to be an exhibition center as well. I think we've got room for about 16, maybe 17 stands, 20,000 people, 6 days. So it's going to be a super fun event. So yeah, see if you can get around and, stay tuned. As I said, I will definitely share more about this as we grow. Right, and then it takes us to Q&A. It was an interesting question today, I think. There we go. So the question came through. I want to get into web development. So I want to know which language is commonly used. That's a great question. And I like it that I can talk about this on my show because the show's not just about hardware. And most people think tech is just hardware. And I do spend a lot of time talking about tech and hardware. But the correct answer, or the answer to your question, is JavaScript. So I'm going to dumb JavaScript down because we translate geek into regular speak. JavaScript is like the magic that makes websites come alive. It's the secret sauce, let's call it, that lets your website do cool stuff. So if you were going to change thing on a page without having to reload the whole page, JavaScript. If you want to make things move around and look awesome, so like animations that you see, when you scroll on a website and all the little animations move, JavaScript. Doing stuff when you click or type, so like when you're searching or playing a little bit of game and you start interfacing, that interface is also powered by JavaScript. So the best part is that it actually works on every computer, phone. You don't need any extra apps. Most websites use it. And then I would say that it probably is in your interest, whoever asked the question, to learn other languages as well, because if your focus is web and just web development, then yes, JavaScript is probably all you will need to learn. But if you were looking at doing things like maybe that started with web and then you needed to evolve, or you wanted to build games or do a little bit of 3D rendering, things like that, then you're going to need to look at things like Unreal Engine or Unity, and then the allied programs that go with that, like maybe for 3D Maya. There are tons of languages out there, but I think for everyone out there, if you are looking at getting into technology and more specifically software and software development, give yourself like the 5 and 10 year timeline. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be doing in a few years? Are you learning how to code because you want to build games? Are you learning how to code because you want to build web or Web3? And then, just a quick Google search and you'll probably find the answers of what you should or shouldn't be working with. There are great programs out there to teach you these. You can even learn languages through gamification. Going to do the Apple reference here again. What's it? Swift Playground, I think it's called. It teaches kids how to code using games. Like you make a little dinosaur dude run around on the iPad. So yeah, JavaScript. And if that was Q&A, then that means we are at the end of the show. So I suppose that's it. So until next time, keep your screens clean and your knob shiny.